Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Jasim from the International Office. Before we begin, some practical information. This live feed will be recorded for the purpose of sharing it on our YouTube channel. So it may help you and others as a guide even after the webinar has ended. I recommend you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you may not miss any of our webinars. We have a lot of exciting webinars already sitting there, so you should definitely do that. You will also get the opportunity to interact with our guest and ask your questions related to migrations. Please write them at the Q&A function on Zoom. We will try to answer all of them at the end of this webinar. Stay tuned and let's welcome our guest, Charlotte Carlson. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you very much. I work in the admissions office here at Jönköping University. So that means that I don't work for the migration agency. This webinar is to give you practical information for applying. We can't answer questions about how long it takes to get a decision or things like that, but we can tell you what the most common mistakes are so that you don't do them. We'll try to help you get through the application for the residence permit for study as best we can. So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. All right. So we're going to talk about how to apply for what is called a residence permit for study. I will most likely refer to it as a study permit for the rest of the webinar. That's what the migration agency also calls it when they don't want to use too many long words. Finding information, we have actually put together some information for you on our web page under admissions and visa requirements. And I've said here that it's also called a study permit. There we go. So if we go to this page, it tells you about where to find the information. Now, for bachelor and master programs, it's pretty straightforward. But here at Jönköping University, we also have our pathway programs and our pathway summer course. And there are different guides to how you need to apply, what documents you need, depending on what you're admitted to. So we're going to go through that as well. So yeah, it depends. If it's just a bachelor or master program, you follow those instructions. Pathway summer plus a bachelor or a master program, that's separate as well. Or if you've admitted to a pathway year or a pathway semester. So for a bachelor or master program, you need your letter of acceptance to show that you are admitted to full-time studies. Your letter of acceptance also includes information that you will have an emergency health insurance. So that's what you need. And what is optional is a proof of extra health insurance. For example, if you have a precondition, say, for example, you suffer from asthma already, that will not be covered by the emergency health insurance. because it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. So for that, you would need extra health insurance. If you're going to study for less than a 2-year program, so if it's a 1-year program or shorter, you have a pre-existing condition, you're going to need extra health insurance. You also need to have your passport to be valid for the duration of the time you're applying for a residence permit for. So a residence permit starting on a certain date, ending on a certain date, your passport must cover that entire time. Because if your passport will expire after 6 months, you will not be able to get a residence permit for more than that time. So if your passport expires in 6 months, your residence permit will be for 6 months, and then you have to reapply. You also have to have a bank statement in your own name in English, and the currency must be clearly stated. So if the currency is South African rand or rupees, it has to state that on that document. And that document should be issued no more than 4 months before the start of the time, what you're applying for a permit for that time. So if it can't be, if you're applying for a permit starting 16th of August, it can't be issued today. It must be issued on the 16th of April, because that's 4 months. If you're admitted to a pathway summer plus the bachelor or a master program, it's pretty much the same, except you need to submit both your letters of acceptance, the one for pathway summer and the one for the bachelor or master program. Then you have the same information when it comes to letter of acceptance, the information about health insurance, the passport. It has to be valid for the duration of the permit, and again, bank statement. So those are it doesn't matter what you're admitted to. These are the same then, the health insurance, passport, and bank statement. Now, when it comes to if you're admitted to a pathway year program or a pathway semester, again, you have received a letter of acceptance for pathway year or pathway semester. Letter of acceptance includes the emergency health insurance again. But here's the difference. Pathway year and pathway semester includes, the program fee includes a boarding fee. So that means that you have prepaid your room and your food. So your invoice that shows that you have paid, you should submit that as well, because you can, I'll get there later, but it means that you don't have to show the same amount in your bank statement that you have access, the money you have access to. Also note that for pathway year, pathway semester, even if you have been pre-assessed for a bachelor or master program, you are only applying for a residence permit for the pathway study at this time. So that's the difference between pathway year, pathway semester, and pathway summer course. Pathway summer course with bachelor, you apply for everything at once. But for pathway year and pathway semester, you're applying just for a study permit for pathway. Now, pathway year and pathway semester, it includes food and accommodation. So this means that the maintenance requirements that the migration agency has stated on their website here can be reduced. So the minimum is 9,450 Swedish kronor per month. But prepaid food and accommodation means that you can deduct this much per month. So that means that pathway year, pathway semester, if you're admitted to that, you need to have 2,625 Swedish kronor per month at least. So how much do you need to show? Well, it depends on the length of the pathway program. So a pathway year ending in May, that's 9 months. Pathway year ending in June, that's 10 months. And the pathway semester is 5 months long. And so you need to show 5 months, 5 times 2,625, or 10 months times, or 9 months times. So something to remember is that an application for a study permit that is missing documents and that you have to complete later on, that will take longer to process. So you should send in your complete application. I'll show you the actual application in a little bit, and so you can pause your application and then return to it. If your passport is about to expire, make sure that you extend it or get a new one, because a study permit cannot be granted beyond the date on your passport, the expiration date on your passport. Another thing, to some of you, this is going to sound ridiculous, but know what you're admitted to. It has happened that the migration agency asks questions, and if you don't know what you're admitted to, that's not a good thing. So read up on what you're admitted to, learn about the required classes on the program website. I can show you that later on as well. So for pathway, know which pathway program, why you're studying that pathway program, and if you have been pre-assessed for a bachelor or master program after, you need to know when that program will start. So that's just a few tips to avoid making unnecessary mistakes. Another list of common mistakes, again, incomplete application. So make sure you have everything when you start your application. Another mistake is that the bank account is in someone else's name, or it's shared with a person who's not a spouse, who's also applying for a residence permit to come with you. So the bank account, if you're over 18, the bank account must be in your name and your name only. And then bank statements that's missing information, like the name of the account holder, in this case, you as the student. If information about the currency is missing, is it Pakistani rupees or is it Indian rupees? What is it? And date when the bank statement was issued. It's very important. Now, if you have a scholarship or a grant for living expenses, and that document doesn't include the amount or that the funds can be used in whatever way they want, that could be a problem. So if you have a scholarship or grant for living expenses, it has to include the information about either an amount or the fact that the funds are to be used however you want to use them. Please note that a partial tuition fee scholarship is not of interest to the migration agency, because that has to do with a tuition fee and not the living expenses. So they don't really look at that if you have a partial tuition fee scholarship. When it comes to your passport, if there are missing pages, that could be a problem. So any numbers or letters that are at the top or bottom of the page, they have to be visible. And if your signature is on a different page than the page where your photo and name is on, you have to copy the signature page as well and upload all of those pages so that they have all the information necessary. Also, another mistake is not knowing what you're admitted to. The application for a study permit is done through the migration agency's website, and this is what it looks like when you get to this page. I'll get to that later, but this is how you create an account. So you need to have an email address and a password. So you need to, if you're creating a new account, this is what happens. You have to add your email, choose a password, accept terms of use, and say that you're not a robot, and then next. Then you will have received a verification code to your email address, and it's valid for 15 minutes. So you need to enter the code here and then next. Then you have a choice to either activate the two-step verification where you need to have a cell phone, or you can choose not to use it. It's not as secure, so it's up to you. But the phone number can only be used at one time for one account. So if you share a phone number with someone else and they've used it for their account, you can't use it again. So you have to decide here whether to activate the two-step verification or not. If you do activate the two-step verification, you will receive a verification code by text message, which you enter, and then next step, and your account is created. So that took you to Migration Agency website. This is the main site, and you choose if you just do migrationsverket.se, you choose English, apply for permit for studies, and it takes you here. And you are applying for a study permit for higher education, and that's whether it's pathway or bachelor or master. Here you have some information as well, and then residence permit for higher education takes you to this page. Now it's important that you read through this page here, because this has a lot of useful information. For instance, copies of your passport that shows signature, personal data. Read more what the copies must look like here. Well, do that to make sure that you actually upload the correct information. And I have already logged on to apply for a residence permit. And if this is your first permit, basically extension of permit is only when you're in Sweden applying for extension of the permit you're already holding. So if you're not in Sweden now and already studying, for instance, a bachelor, and you're admitted to a master, this is a majority of you should check this first permit. I had prepared whenever everything has disappeared now. Here you put in your information. let me just see if you will get this kind of information once you've an email from the migration agency when you yes, here we go. So your surname, your surname or family name, and then, for instance, if you had a different name when you were unmarried and now you're married, write that here. Your first and middle names, the gender specified in the passport, date of birth, follow the information on how to write the date of birth. So they're going to need it in year, month, and date. Place of birth, country of birth, and citizenship. If you have other citizenships, add them here. Marital status, single or married or cohabitating partner or other. Then it's about your contact information. Where do you live now? So your address, your city and country, and phone number is optional. But the email is the one that you used when you created the account, and you have to make sure that you can access that email address, because the migration agency will only send you information to that email address. So it's very important that you have access to that email address. The next step is for your travel document. Do you have a valid passport? Well, I hope that we do. And that is a national passport. Then you enter your passport number, the country that issued it, and the dates on your passport, issue date and expiration date. Again, you need to put it as year, month, and date. And then you attach a copy of the passport. Again, if you need to have copies of more pages because your signature page is a different page, you do that. So you browse and upload file here. And again, read more about the copies, what the copy should look like. Then it gives you a selection. It's actually, here are all the Swedish embassies or consulates that handle migration issues. So United States, it's Washington, D.C. If it's South Africa, it's Pretoria. Argentina, it's Buenos Aires. So find your closest embassy or consulate in the list, and then click next. Then they're going to ask if you have ever applied for a permit before, a permit or a visit. And it doesn't matter if it was granted or not. They want to know if you have ever applied to travel to Sweden. So that's a permit or an entry visa. Then if you have a valid residence permit in a country other than your home country, it could happen, but in this case, I'm going to say no. Here they want to know if you have visited any country in the Schengen area other than Sweden in the past year. So that would be Germany, France, Belgium. Yeah. So if you have, check yes. But if you haven't been outside of your country for the past 2, 3, 4, COVID years, Just check no. Current place of residence. Are you in Sweden? You should say no if you're doing your first application for a study permit. The next one is enter the period you want to apply for a residence permit for. Well, this is where your letter of acceptance comes in. So for instance, if you're admitted to a 1-year master program, that information is stated here. 1 academic year, August 21st of 2023 until June 2nd, 2024. If it's a 2 or 3 year program, it tells you the duration of the academic years, but you can only apply for, if you're studying for 2 or 3 years, you can apply for a residence permit for studies for no more than 13 months. So up to 13 months. If it's a 1-year master, a 1-year pathway, or a pathway semester, it's the actual dates. So a 1 academic year master is 10 months. So that's what you are applying for. So you have the start date and the end date. Now, if you're admitted to pathway summer course plus a master or bachelor program, you should check the letter of acceptance for the pathway summer course and put that date here, and then the end date, the end of the first academic year of the bachelor or master program. Again, it's year, month, date. So planned studies in Sweden. It's university or university college, undergraduate or master level. This is also for pathway studies, because the pathway studies, that's not a foundation program, it's undergraduate level. So pathway or master, bachelor, university college, the first one. And it's university programs, because the others are for exchange students that come through their home university and are staying for a semester, sometimes 2. Then you should add what your planned studies are through this, and then you have to write the information. If you're admitted to pathway summer course plus a program, you should write everything at once in this way: pathway summer course plus international marketing master, or whatever bachelor program. This is what the migration agency would like you to do when you're admitted to pathway summer plus a master or bachelor. If it's just a master or bachelor, or just a pathway year or pathway semester, that's all you need to write. The end section, what is it? What's stated on your letter of acceptance? Health insurance, here it asks you if you're going to be in Sweden for 1 year or longer. So that is your studies more than 12 months? Yes or no? If it's yes, they're not going to ask you about health insurance, most likely. Let's see what happens. No. If you say no, that means that you're admitted to pathway semester or pathway year, or a 1 year master, 1 academic year master. because then you need to show that you're insured through the university. And here, yes, you will be, because once you've paid the tuition fee, that's part of the tuition fee. So click yes here. And then here it says browse and upload your file. Again, it's your letter of acceptance. So the letter of acceptance is proof of two things: admission to full-time studies and health insurance. So letter of acceptance, again, very important document. Here you describe your reason for studying in Sweden, why you've chosen these studies, like plans for the future with this education. What doors do you think it will open? What you plan to do with the education you get. Here, if you have a current employment, or if you're studying currently, you're studying high school, or you're studying a bachelor or something else. If you both have a job and you're studying, well, write everything down here. Your previous education could be perhaps a university or a high school. If you're applying if you're admitted to a bachelor program, you can write your high school. If you have studied at a university or college, you write that as well. If you have work experience, this is optional. If it says optional, you don't have to fill that in. So it's if you want to show that you've been working, you know what it takes to do that. Financial assets. Do you have a scholarship? In this case, this is, do you have a scholarship for your living expenses? Again, this is not where you say that you have a partial tuition fee waiver. This is about your ability to pay for your living expenses, accommodation, food, textbooks, clothes, things like that. And then here you have to document your financial assets. In the case of your own bank assets, for example, if you click add and say own bank assets, it tells you exactly what they need you to have. The total amount in whatever currency. So again, you find your currency in the drop-down box. This is good. You don't have to write it down. You can just find it. If you need help with currency conversion, read this section here. There we go. Oh. Here, will the organizer of your education or an organization be responsible for the cost of your food? If you're admitted to bachelor, master, or pathway summer, it's for 4 weeks, so it's too short, basically, too short a time. But if it's pathway year or pathway semester, you should check yes here, and then you upload your invoice that shows that you have paid for the boarding fee. Same thing with accommodation. Yes, you upload the invoice showing boarding fee. So, but if you're admitted to bachelor or master or pathway summer plus bachelor or master, you say no here. The next thing is, are you are you bringing your spouse or cohabitating partner with you? Yes or no? Because your partner needs to also apply for a residence permit. Let's see what happens. Oh, no. It tells, you know, here is where you the co-applicant's information. And if you're bringing your children. So yes, you're allowed to apply for your spouse, children to come with you. Please note that the university only has an accommodation guarantee for the students. So if you're bringing your family, you will need to find accommodation on your own. Other information, this is any other information you think is important for the Swedish Migration Agency to know about. That's completely up to you, if there's anything you want them to know. And then it will give you an overview so that you can go back and see, oh, wait a minute, I missed something here. So once you've done everything, attached all the documents that you need to attach, again, these are in red here, must not left unanswered. So once you've done all that, that is when you submit it. And that's when you will pay an application fee for the residence permit. And that's, I think it's, well, it's stated here somewhere. I think it's 1,500 Swedish kronor now. Fees for residence permits for studies. So you check there. Yeah, so it's 1,500 Swedish kronor. And if you can't pay the application fee for the permits through a card, you need to visit the closest embassy to submit your application in paper form. So that's why it's easier to use a card to pay that application fee. Please note that the migration agency will only start to review your application for a study permit when the university has informed them that the tuition fee, the first installment of the tuition fee or the pathway program fee has been paid in full. The invoice has been paid in full. So the sooner you pay your invoice, the sooner you can submit an application for residence permit. So the longer it takes before you have paid the fee, the longer it will take to process the application. And in extreme cases, you might not be able to arrive if you wait and wait and wait until paying the invoice. There is also the Swedish Institute has also a video on how to apply for a residence permit. So it can be found here. I'm gonna leave this up so you can write this down, and then when we list this, when we put this video up on YouTube, you can you can watch and then hit pause here and get to this YouTube video as well. But the difference is that our information here contain information about our pathway, which is different from the information that is given by the Swedish Institute, because of the fact that we have the pathway year and pathway semester has, you're paying a boarding fee, so you don't have to have the full 9,000 whatever it was. And also the fact that we have pathway summer course plus a bachelor or master, which has its own requirements in the documents that you need to submit. So that was the information. It was a lot. It was kind of quick, which is the reason why we're recording this, so that you can then go back and watch it slowly.
Yeah, but thanks very much, Charlotte. It was, I think, quite clear. I think for any kind of layman, it would be super easy to make a residence permit application for studies. So now I think we can take the questions, and we already have 16 of them. So let's go the first one. Hi, could you please tell me when should I pay for the tuition fee? I want to know the deadline.
Well, if you're admitted, you should have received information about how to view your invoice through our invoice system, Payman, and the invoice has a due date on it.
Yes. I would like to ask that I have got an email saying offer to admissions, that I've received a letter from Dean. I haven't received any acceptance letter. Could you please tell me what should I do?
Send an email to admissions office.
Yeah.
You have received a letter from the dean, okay, and you got an email saying you have an offer of admission. Well, it also depends. Were you admitted through university admissions or through the direct application? If it's university admissions, it could have taken a few more days before the letter of acceptance is sent out. And also, if you're admitted through university admissions, you're not getting an offer, you're getting an admission. So that's the difference between applying through university admissions and the direct Jönköping. So through university admissions, the letter of acceptance that you get is the letter of acceptance. And you also have a notification of selection results in university admissions, but then we manually send out the letter of acceptance. So if you haven't received the letter that states, again, that's I did show what it looked like before. Letter of acceptance. I'm thinking I'll share my screen again. Share. This is the letter of acceptance. This means that you have been accepted. It's not an offer. It's a letter of admission, of acceptance. This is the only letter that you will get. There will be no new letter once you've paid the invoice. It's going to be the same. So basically, this letter, along with us telling the migration agency that you've paid, that is your admission.
Abdul Mateen is asking, specified bank statement for a 2-year master program. As I listen, your university is offering pilot program and it requires to show funds for 2 years. That's not happening this year, Abdul Mateen, unfortunately. So
yeah.
you
the pilot program ended last month. So that means that unfortunately, we're still not where a 2-year residence permit can be offered for all university students. And we're back to what it was before the pilot project. So that means that if you're admitted to a 2 or 3 year program, you can apply for 13 months at the most. So you need to show that you have sufficient funds for 13 months in that case.
Good. Let me go up again. What if I'm applying when I'm 17, but I will be 18 when I arrive in Sweden? Does the bank statement need to be in my name?
This is one of the exceptions, because if you're 17 when you're applying for your residence permit, in addition to perhaps not having that amount yourself, it can be a joint with your parents and proof that they are your parents. Also, so the bank statement can be in your name and one of your parents, because your parents will also have to confirm that they're going to let you go, because you're going to be under 18. So they have to say to the migration agency, yes, we are going to let our child.
Please, can we have an extended deadline for the tuition fee payment? In my country, Nigeria, the process of getting dollars to make the tuition fee payment is very rigorous. I plead for an additional time to make my tuition fee payment. Thank you.
Yeah, we have heard that there are difficulties in Nigeria. It has been it gotten worse in the past few years. It really depends on what program you've been admitted to, because there are some programs that are full. If it's a bachelor program, there's a risk that we're not going to be able to give you more time. So it completely depends. Basically, please send us an email, and then we'll have to look at your case.
And we can drop the email address at the chat for everyone, so yes, everyone have it. There is another question Manisha is asking. I have mentioned my name wrongly. Actually, it is spelling mistake, and I want to know that whether I have the opportunity to correct my name, and is it possible, is it going to be a problem for my visa process? I'm confused. Is it
okay,
the residence permit application she's asking about, or the...
Yeah, but Manisha has sent an email or several emails to us, and we are looking into this. So we will get back to you, Manisha, as soon as we've checked everything. So just give us a few more hours, or perhaps until tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do.
Swedish embassy is closed in Pakistan. In case it remains closed, what will be the refund policy?
Okay, the Swedish embassy in Islamabad is closed for visits. That means that they're open, but you can't go and visit them. You can't submit biometrics or collecting a residence card. The Swedish Migration Agency is working on finding alternatives for students from Pakistan. So we'll see what happens. So just check the Migration Agency website and the embassy website for updates with that. When it comes to the refund policy, if it's in this case a special reason, it's a full refund except for there is an administrative fee of 7,500 Swedish kronor because that's what it costs us in labor to do a refund. It takes a lot of time to do a refund. So unfortunately, we have to take to charge an administrative fee.
Last year, my residence permit was refused for some reasons. Is it worth reapplying for a residence permit? Please give me advice.
Unfortunately, the reason your residence permit was refused would be
only known to
guide
you.
to whether or not it would be refused again. We can't really answer that because it completely depends on what was your situation then, what was the reason for the rejection, and is that reason still valid today? If it's not, well, we don't know.
I have been admitted for a 2-year master's program at Jönköping University. I'm excited to begin my studies. I applied for residence permit studies on 1st of April. However, I was not so sure about the dates for the start and end of the residence permit. So I put the 1st of August until the 31st of July, 2025, in line with my study period. I have now found out that for a 2-year period, we should apply for 30 months at first. Therefore, I was just wondering whether requesting a 2-year residence permit would affect my application.
Well, the best thing is normally the migration agency would then just ignore the end date and say, okay, this is you get 13 months, and they do that automatically. But if you are worried about it, contact the migration agency and ask, because they might be able to make changes on your behalf. Because once you've submitted your application, you can't get back to it because it's that's only possible if you have a Swedish personal number with an electronic ID thing. So check with the migration agency if you're worried.
On the Swedish Migrations Agency, it says that residence permit applicants will have to show their passports at the Swedish Embassy or the consulate and also collect their decision. However, I'm not living in my home country and have not lived there for a while now. Will it be a fine? Will it be fine if I request to travel to a Swedish embassy or the consulate nearby to the country I'm currently staying in with my family? I think it should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you are legally residing in a specific country, you should choose the embassy closest to that in that country or closest to that country. Yeah.
Will there be any interviews at the Swedish embassy in relation to our residence permit application? If yes, what kind of questions can we expect?
There can be interviews. It depends on what the migration, if the migration agency, if the officers there have any questions about your application, they might say that you need to come in for an interview. Basically, they're going to ask about what you've written in your, basically your motivation for studying in Sweden. And again, know what you're admitted to and know what you're going to study. Know what the first year courses are, things like that.
I think someone is asking about the family accommodation. This webinar is for migrations related questions only. So we have already done the accommodation webinar. So kindly the email which you have received for this webinar, I have mentioned about a link to our YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to our webinars and you can find the accommodation webinar over there too. I got admissions at JU both for, but do not have a scholarship. Are there any opportunities for full scholarship that I could apply for to enable me to proceed with my studies? No, I'm sorry. The only scholarship you could have applied for is the SI scholarship, but that time period is already gone. And the other scholarship is JU scholarship, which is already, yeah, that's, you still have 3 days left to apply for it, actually.
Yeah.
Will you provide the health insurance? Yes, you have, hopefully you have listened to the webinar. Yeah, so. I got admission at JU both, but yeah, okay. Last year, my residence permit was refused for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting the same questions. Is it necessary to apply for additional entrance visa in addition to study permit for non-EU students?
That actually depends on your citizenship. On the migration agency website, there's a link to let me just see if I can find it again. Higher education. And let me share my screen with you. Countries whose citizens require an entry visa for travel to Sweden. So the list here, these countries need an entry visa as well as a residence permit for study. There are some exceptions. There could be little asterisks over here. So you have to go down and check what it means. But basically, in general, these countries, they do require an entry visa as well as a study permit. But that's something that you also will get information about at the embassy. Because the entry visa is something that the embassy issues. So the migration agency, they issue the study permit. The embassy issues the entry visa. So they're two different things.
Okay, but doesn't the study residence permit give them the permission to come to Sweden?
It does. It means that you can stay in Sweden, but for some countries you also need an entry visa, basically a Schengen visa.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I didn't know about it.
Yeah. Well, not all countries, but some.
I applied for a residence permit on the 1st of April after paying my initial 6,000 tuition fee and receiving a confirmation. In my residence permit application, the date of my bank account is 21st of March, 2023. I was not able to get a bank statement for the 1st of April as my bank only issues online bank statement at the end of each quarter. I was just wondering whether a slightly earlier bank account statement date compared to my application date will have any consequences for my application.
You would most likely have to contact the migration agency in this case, because 21st of March, that's a bit too early.
But I also have some experience where I know that migration agency contacts the applicant and then asks for a recent bank statement. So you might be asked from migrations about that, actually.
Just to know that that is going to delay your decision.
Yeah.
So
So perhaps better to find the latest one if possible and upload that or something. Yeah.
if it's just online bank statements, you might be able to contact your bank and explain the situation and see if they can manually issue a different bank statement.
Kindly clarify again on the study application date. Should be the date stated in the letter of acceptance. Yes, it is. Please watch this video later on once we have uploaded it on our YouTube channel.
I mean, you can state an earlier date. You can state as early as 1st of August for studies that start during the month of August. As the migration agency has made this change recently. But if you do state the date of your start of the program, the migration agency will add a week or two before that date.
Could you please explain again about insurance? For example, if I need to spend 2 years for a master, should I say yes? I think you explained it in a very good way.
If you mean the question about health insurance, if you're studying a 2-year master, you will be staying for more than 1 year. So you should, and I closed that, so I don't.
But I think they should be able to find the info once they watch the recording of this webinar, so it should be fine because we have already answered this.
Again, we're going to try to get it out as quickly as possible. And but yeah, read the question. If you are admitted to a 2-year program, then that question, if it says, are you going to be in Sweden for more than a year? Then yes. If that question is that, then you should answer yes, if it's a 2-year program.
If I open a new saving account and deposit the money today and take the bank statement at April 26, 27, can I apply with that account? Because I heard an account has to be 3 months matured at least. You can do that. We don't have any of that requirement. We don't, at least I don't know about it for
I don't know.
Certain countries do have that kind of requirement, but I don't think so Sweden has that. So
it could depend. If the migration agency then has questions, they will ask you for more information. Again, it will most likely cause longer processing time because they have to ask you for more information.
From my experience, I can tell you that I do get some young students who usually might not have their own bank accounts. So they open it up and then they put the money and then they apply and then it has never been a problem. So, so you know.
I guess it also depends on how old the person is.
My father is going to sponsor me. Can I provide my father's bank statement? No, you cannot. If you're above 18, it has to be your account.
And unfortunately, your father is not an organization that gives scholarships or grants. So no, your father will have to put the money in your account.
If I get SI scholarship, then how do you respond, including residence permit application?
We notify the migration agency that it's been paid.
Okay. Should I add more money after the visa application or leave the account the way it is? I don't understand what. Once your visa has been issued, if the bank statement was from your home country, and if you still want to keep that, you can of course keep that. But if you're coming here for more than a year education, obviously you're going to open up a bank account here. So maybe it's much smarter to have that money here because you might be, for living expenses or your tuition fee, etc. So this is something that you need to decide for yourself. Hi, I have received offer letter and accepted the same, but I am yet to receive invoice.
It takes a few days. If you applied through our direct application and you just accepted it, it's going to take a few days before you will get information about the invoice.
I visited Shenzhen area in 2018. Should I attach my visa stamps with my passport copy? You can do that if you want to.
If you want to, but it's more than a year ago. So
yeah. When couldn't I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand. Able to arrive on the start date. Okay. What should I do? Any online lectures for cover up the sessions?
As stated in your letter of acceptance, if you realize that you cannot arrive on the date stated, contact the admissions office. The email is written in your letter of acceptance.
Yeah. So I'm admitted to 1 year master's program and I'm a bit confused about extra insurance you just mentioned. Do I have to get that for 1 year program or is it fine, the one which is mentioned in the letter of acceptance?
It's fine with the emergency health insurance that is through the university. It's only if you have a pre-existing condition. So if you are healthy, then you don't have to have an additional.
Yeah. I'm from Nigeria. I had emailed the tuition department and told that I cannot make payments via debit credit card. Please, is this so? I pay through the card.
Yeah. The question is, why can't you pay through card? Well, unfortunately, we don't have a card system to pay the tuition fee at this moment. So if you want to pay by card, then perhaps using a service like Wise or xe.com would help. And you can do it through that system in that case.
Right before the RP application is having a larger transaction a problem in the bank statement.
If you mean you get a big amount of money put in your account, the migration agency might ask you to submit additional an even more recent bank statement to show that you still have access to that money.
But you can also think about it that quite often students do not have such a big amount of money in their accounts, and it's usually their parents sending that money over to their accounts. So it's a common practice, but you should also be expected, maybe if migrations have the extra information to ask from you. Residence permit, can we apply from August 1st to June 15th instead of 21st to June 2nd?
You can, in that case, you could, yes, you could do that. If you put June 15th instead of June 2nd, that is, what is that? A week and a half? That is a little over a week longer. That's about 2 weeks longer. Yeah, the migration agency would then probably just say, okay, you already wrote you wrote June 15th. We're going to go with that. So they're not going to add any extra weeks on top of that because you already did that yourself.
Okay. My father is my sponsor, so the bank statement is issued in his name. It is FDR account. Will it be a problem? I'm over 18 years. Yes, you need to have your bank account in your name, and you have to do that. Otherwise, you'll not be able to make the residence permit application. My bank statement is in sharing with my. Okay, sorry, we have already answered.
Yeah.
I got selected for.
If you're over 18, you
Yeah.
can't share it with your parent.
I got selected for bachelor 3 years program, and this is regarding visa application period. Is it should be the same our academic year as 21st August 2023 to 2nd June 2024, or 1st of August 2023 to 30th June 2024. So he's trying to ask, should it be the whole period we should mention, or just 1 year?
Well, basically, you can apply for 13 months. So 21st of August, well, if you put it 1st of August and then 13 months, calculate 13 months after the 1st of August, and then write that date.
Okay. Can I do the application for simultaneously with my visa application, or I have to be issued visa before I can apply for a residence permit?
That's an interesting question that I don't know, but I do think that you have to have the residence permit in order to receive an entry visa. So you can't apply for the entry visa before the residence permit.
Thanks a lot for the enlightenment. Please, how long exactly can our residence permit be available after submission? Also, you have stated the minimum amount we should have in our bank accounts. Is there a maximum amount?
There's no maximum amount.
There's no maximum amount.
No.
Maybe you should help all the other students. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. After you submit your application for a study permit, it takes anywhere from 1, 2, 3, 4 months, depending on if it was complete when you submitted it, that the migration agency is not going to ask for more information. So it depends on if you applied from that your citizenship is a country where there are many applicants, as opposed to a country where it's just, a handful each year. So it's completely up to what happens right then in that area, and if what your application looks like and everything. So unfortunately, we can't say how quickly, but anywhere from 1 to 4 months.
Is it possible to apply for an e-study permit? Yes, it is. If I don't fill the amount requested for a year yet, which is the last trick. Sorry.
I just have an e-study permit. I don't really know what they're asking. I know that in some countries like Australia, you can just apply and get it electronically. But for Sweden, you have to apply, you have to go to the embassy and show your passport in person before you get an actual card in your hand that you have to bring. So it's not an electronic permit, it's a physical permit.
I thought the question was around making the application.
Making the application, you can do it online, but the permit itself is a physical permit.
Yes. Good. If I don't fill the amount requested for a year, which is the last recommended date to apply for the residence.
The longer it takes for your application for a permit to be complete, the longer they're going to take, and you might not be able to get one in time.
I've applied for a university scholarship, and the result of that will be published on 7th of May. Is it mandatory that I should deposit my tuition fee before the scholarship result is published?
Okay, 7th of May. That's a JU scholarship. that means that if you have a due date that is set before the 7th of May, you should pay before the 7th of May, the full, and then we will deduct twice in the next invoice.
Yeah. What if I don't have enough funds in my personal account, but gained a loan from Feeder, and they are going to give me money throughout my time in Sweden?
Then you need to have the documentation from Feeder to upload to your permit application.
Yeah. I was admitted for a master's degree on international financial analysis. Thank you very much for telling us. I got admission letter from the university. However, I'm waiting for the Swedish Institute scholarship result. Do I have to apply to the residence permit before knowing the scholarship result, or better to wait?
Okay, again, you should apply for a study permit once you have paid the tuition fee. So that means that you can wait until the SI scholarship recipient list is published, and if you receive an SI scholarship, you can start your study permit application right then. If not, you need to pay the tuition fee and then submit the study permit application.
And the next question is also around this. Actually, I'm a scholarship recipient from Swedish Institute. I learned that the list of beneficiaries will be released on April 27th. If I'm not mistaken, as a beneficiary of SI, would I still have to pay for residence permit, study permit, or it would be automatic?
I don't know if it's mentioned anywhere on the SI scholarship website. So I don't know the answer to that question. It might be that you still have to pay the 1,500 Swedish kronor to apply for a residence permit. I can't say that I've seen that is something that would be covered. So you would most likely have to do that yourself.
If I'm admitted to a 2-year master's program, does my spouse need an extra health insurance for the visa process, or the spouse also will be covered with my emergency insurance offered by the university?
The emergency health insurance is for the student only. So if you're going to be here for 2 years, the reason why the migration agency asks if it's a 1 year or 2 year is that if you're here for 2 years or more, or actually more than 12 months, more than 365 days, then you can and should register in the Swedish population registry, which means that then you have the Swedish health insurance. You're covered by the Swedish health insurance. The thing, though, is that when applying for the population registry to be added to that registry and have a Swedish personal number, you have to show that you have insurance. So when it comes to a spouse or other family members that you are bringing with you, even if the migration agency might not ask for health insurance for your family members, the tax office will ask. So you will need to have at least a 1 year health insurance for your spouse to be able to get the Swedish health insurance through the Swedish personal number.
I paid the fee today in the morning. Please note that I did not receive any confirmation email yet. Could you please advise from my case where I paid the fee but did not start the process of residence permit?
Paying the tuition fee depends on how you pay. Through a bank transfer, wire transfer, internet transfer, that all takes different amounts of time. So it can take anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks. So just wait for the confirmation email from the tuition and finance department.
Can I apply JU scholarship now? Even JU was not my first option at SE ranking.
To be eligible for a JU scholarship, you have to have JU as your first option or first and second option. So even if you were to submit an application, you wouldn't be eligible for a JU scholarship.
Please, I have received my LOA and payment invoice. I have also applied for, during my application, I did not see any part concerning health insurance for either me or my accounting partner. But we have already answered, so you should be able to watch the webinar and
What's the webinar again?
Yeah. I noticed that JU provide the pickup service, but the date is actually before the academic year started. Does that mean for residence permit, I can apply for a longer time than the academic time that the letter of acceptance announced? How much additional time can a 2-year program student can get? I'm confused about the question actually.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah.
Number one, if it has to do with pickup service, that's an accommodation question.
Yeah, you can watch that webinar as I already mentioned. Can you recap the process once again? I don't know what you're talking about, but you can watch the video. Please, I have received mine. Okay, we have already done that. On the payment portal in Nigeria, there are no options for Swedish krona. Should one want to put the euro equivalent, what should the conversion rate be? Use xe.com. I saw that on Migration's Work It website, so please do that. And
then also note that if you pay in euro, we will still receive the money in Swedish kroner.
Yes.
So there might be some currency exchange rates, transfer fees. So try to add more, more to the amount. So a higher amount than what is stated on XE.
I have only a single name on my passport, but on university admission application, single name was not accepted. So I put a hyphen in one section, and now it comes up with my name on acceptance letter as well. So while filling up the residence permit application, will it create any problem for me, or can you change the name on acceptance letter?
We know that this happens. So the migration agency also has the same. So either you put your one name as both your first and second name, or again, you put the hyphen the same way that it's stated on your letter of acceptance when you apply with a migration agency.
Is it possible to pay school fee not at once? I think he's trying to ask if he can pay in installments.
At Jönköping University, the tuition fee for a program is a set amount. That program fee is divided into smaller installments. So the smallest installment is what is written on your invoice. So that sum, that amount has to be paid in full before we can say to the migration agency that you are in fact admitted. So, yeah.
I want to find out if the health insurance from the university also cover my family at the process of applying for the permit. We have already answered. So
already answered, no.
Can a 6-month study permit be applied for a 2-year master program and be extended it after that 6 month of another 30-month study permit later on? Can a 6-month study period be applied for a 2-year? Why would you want to do that?
Well, I mean, if your passport expires, so you can only apply for a 6-month residence permit, then you have to, that's one of the information that you want to give to the migration agency. There was a section where it says other important information you want the Swedish migration agency to know. Well, that's one thing that you could write there. The reason why you're applying for a 6-month residence permit to start with, and not a 13-month.
But I'm also thinking, I think that it might not be so smart, because if you do that, even though you're coming for 2 years of education, you may not get your social security number. What do you think?
That's a possibility, yes, because you need to show that you are going to be here more than 365 days.
Exactly.
And so with a 6-month residence permit, you're going to have to wait until you get the new permit, which an extension of a residence permit can take a lot longer than 4 months. It can take 7 months.
So it's not a smart option, basically,
So
what we are trying to say.
Not really. It's only if you really cannot get a new passport in time. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Do I have to go to the closest embassy, or they are going to send the visa to me?
No, you have to visit them, because you have to visit the embassy to show your passport before you get the decision. Then the card, the permit card, you will have to visit the embassy again to pick up the card and the actual decision.
But when you're visiting the embassy for the first time, you're also doing your biometrics.
Yeah.
So that's why you basically have to visit.
So they're trying to minimize the number of times you have to go there. So they try to combine everything at once. Biometrics, passport, if there's an interview, so that all happens at once. And then there's only one more time to actually pick up the permit card.
I've received offer letter and said the same, but I am yet. Okay, so we have already done that. Please, I received an admissions in bachelor's marketing management, so I don't know what next to do. I have not received any invoice for the payment. Please wait for a few days, couple of days, and then you should be hopefully getting that. Can I travel to Sweden? Not from my country. How to apply for entry visa? We have already given all the whole webinar was about that. So my name was wrongly spelled. Can I go ahead and to pay for my tuition fee?
I mean, if there's a problem with the bank, we might have to change your spelling. Again, if you check the chat, I sent a chat to everyone with the email address to the admissions office. So send an email to see and explain the situation a little more
Context
in detail.
What could be the cost for the optional insurance for pre-existing matters? You should get in touch with your local insurance company or something. Because
it's an insurance that you have to get in your home country. So we have no idea.
Non-EU students should apply residence permit after the visa process, isn't it?
Yeah, again, you have to have the residence permit to be allowed to get an entry visa. So it's the wrong way around.
I've answered that. So the name of our YouTube channel is Jönköping University. You can find, I've already answered. I'm family member in Sweden. Should I mention it during the visa interview, or is it a red signal? I think you should be honest with all of the info.
Yeah,
yes.
Because if you don't mention it and they find out, that could be.
Yeah, I want to confirm if the bank statement showing the account balance as at the date it was prepared will suffice as proof of funds. We have already answered. I think we have already spoken around this topic, so you should be, hopefully you already have the answer on that. I learned from Skatteverket that I will need to study for more than 2 semesters to enroll the person number. I would like to know whether I would be able to obtain a person number based on what I've learned. If you're coming for more than a year's education, yes, you should be able to do that. My concern is I might not be able to do cashless transactions. Don't worry about that part because all of that will be fixed once you are here and you will receive your person number and then you will open up your bank account. So it's a process that all of the students follow, and then you will get all of this information during our first week of orientation.
Please note that then that is if you're admitted to a 2 or 3 year program. If you're not admitted if you're admitted to a 1-year program, you won't be able to get a personal number, and then you are going to need to have access to your funds through your home bank, through a credit card or something like that.
I made my tuition fee today. Last character of my reference has mentioned incorrect. My bank officer by bank officer.
Okay.
Instead of character O, instead of yeah. And what can I do for it? Please assist.
No worries, no worries. It's happened before. So
if I get a full scholarship from an organization which includes tuition, living expenses, accommodation, do I still have to present a bank statement?
you will have to submit the
proof.
The information from the organization. The organization have to issue a certificate with amounts and things like that, and that you have to submit to the migration agency.
Please, can you give us a link to the webinar on the accommodation? Yes, I can do that. I can do that, but I can write it in the chat once I'm done with these questions. How long would it take for me to open an account in Sweden as an international student? Thank you. Well, once you are here, don't worry about this information. It's part of the process, and I'm sure that you would be able to do that. Can I still apply for JU scholarship?
It's not like you can go to the bank and open an account and you have the account in a day. It actually does take several weeks in Sweden to open an account, just to make sure that you have to be patient. In Sweden, everybody has to be patient.
Can I still apply for a JU scholarship since I have been admitted? Though I never had it in as my first choice because I really need partial funding.
We answered this already, that it has to be your first choice.
If I'm a country who needs an entry visa, do I have to apply separately for that from the embassy apart from the study permit e-application? If so, can the entry visa be applied online as well? Is there a separate charge for the entry visa apart from 1,500 SEK?
That's a question that you have to ask the migration agency and or the embassy.
Okay. Can I use joint account to show money for me and my spouse? If I use separate accounts, which account should use? It should, if you're the main applicant, it should be your account showing all of the funds, including your spouse, and if you have children, that funds should also be in the main applicant's account.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm living in different countries. Does my bank statement should be issued from my home country bank, or is it okay to show from other country as well?
If the bank account is in your name, it doesn't matter if it's a different country, because if you're living in a different country than your home country, that's very common. It happens all the time.
If I'm living in Australia since last 4 years, but I applied for master's with my home country address, which country bank statement I need to issue with my situation? Doesn't really matter as long as the bank is in your name, the bank statement is in your name, it's your personal account, you can do that whether it's in Australia or your home country.
Yeah.
If I applied for more than 13 months residence permit for a 2-year master's, would it be a problem?
No, the migration agency would only issue for 13 months.
If my bank statement date is not within 4 months from the beginning of the application, will my application be rejected? No,
they will ask for more information.
Yes. If I'm way above 18 and open a new bank account for my application, will it affect my in any way? Well, I don't know. We don't know about this, but it's absolutely fine for you to open up a bank account right now and put that money into that account and apply for it, because then wait for the decision from the migration agency.
I mean, if say, for example, that you actually had a shared account with your parents, even though you're way over 18, and then you have to have your own bank account now, then of course you have to open your own bank account and move the money. But again, that's something that you can explain in that section with the permit application.
More info.
more information that you want the migration agency to know, that's something that you can explain there, why this happened.
I applied through admissions.se, so notification result is count as acceptance letter, isn't it?
It does, but you should also receive a letter of acceptance where we have more information than just the notification. If you haven't received that, please again send an email to admissions.office@ju.se, and we'll see if something will happen.
I have a 4-month-old baby. Daycare centers do not allow before 1-year-old infants. So can I pay for the first semester and ask for deferment?
Deferment is usually for something that something happens that wasn't when you made the application, that was not an issue. So if you already knew that you were pregnant or you just gave birth, I'm not sure if a deferment would be granted. You could apply, but you would have to have paid the tuition fee in order to be for the deferment application to be reviewed. I'm not sure. Case by case.
For a 2-year course as pertaining the amount to be domiciled in my account, should it include the funds for my entire study or only the amount for my upkeep for 30 months?
The migration agency looks at what you need for the period of the permit you're applying for at the moment. So that means if you're applying for 13 months, you should show that you have sufficient funds for 13 months. And then when you apply for an extension, you have to show that you have replenished your bank account.
Do I have to register on the Migrate's website, or do I go to the embassy directly to register for a permit? Well, I think you can make the online application for residence permit on Migration's website. So yeah, please begin your process there, and
it's only if you have an issue, if you don't have access to a card to pay the 1,500 Swedish kroner. If you really can't do that, then you might have to submit your application on paper at the embassy.
Thank you for this valuable session. Could you please explain about 13-month rule for bachelor? We have already spoken quite much. Well, so the rule is
the 13-month rule is just basically it's a way for the migration agency to make sure that you have a residence permit for more than 365 days so that you can actually get a personal number and be registered in the population registry. So it's
I know I cannot get a personal number if I'm admitted to 1-year masters. I'm aware there is another similar process for students who are enrolled in 1-year program. Will JU support me in processing that?
I'm not sure what the question actually is.
I think he's trying to mention about maybe temporary personal numbers or something. Because if you are
if it's about the coordination numbers, JU doesn't we don't do that for our students. Some universities do, but based on the rules from the tax office, we should not do that. It's only if a student works for the university in some capacity, like student ambassador, and has to have pay slips potentially. If you're studying
or anywhere else, right? Or anywhere else if the student is working outside.
If you get a job, it's a coordination number, but it's not something that the university will help you with.
But you will get the help from the Skatteverket, which is the Swedish tax authority. So you should be able to go there and help get exactly.
Yeah.
Excuse please, if I have a sponsor residence in Sweden, will I need to show a bank statement? No one can sponsor you. Yeah.
If a sponsor is a person, yes, you're still going to need to show a bank statement, because a sponsor is not, I mean, if it's an organization that gives you a grant, that's one thing. But if it's a person that's going to sponsor you, that you still have to have a bank statement in your own name and have the money in that account. As far as we know with the rules on. But if you have more question about that, contact the migration agency to ask specifically.
Can we have the date range that we will receive the invoice to make payment of the fee? I mean, what is the deadline? I mean, once they receive the invoice, how long do they have to pay that invoice?
Then it's going to be anyone admitted now will have 5 weeks.
Okay. I have submitted my residence permit. Please, do I need to email JU to inform them that I also need to email the embassy in my country telling them that I have submitted my application and seeking to show my passport? Do I need to wait for migrations to inform me first before I go to the embassy?
You will be informed by the migration agency and the embassy once they've started to review your application.
If a relative from Sweden is providing free accommodation for myself and the spouse, is there any particular document to be uploaded when applying for the study permit to get the accommodation maintenance fee deducted per person? No, I don't think so.
Because it's a relative, it's a person, it's not an organization.
No. So will we need to travel to an overseas Swedish embassy twice?
If you're living in a country that doesn't have your own embassy, yes. Sri Lanka, for example, you will have to travel twice to New Delhi.
After paying tuition fee and I was qualified for the SI scholarship, can the money be refunded?
Contact tuition. I'm gonna write a new in the chat.
Yeah.
The email to the tuition fee team. So send an email there that has to do with the refunds, SI scholarships, things like that.
Can I apply for a study permit from within Sweden if I'm on a visit visa in Sweden? If I can, will it affect the decision negatively?
The study permit, you have to apply from outside of Sweden. You can't be in Sweden when you do that. So unfortunately, you're going to have to go home to apply.
Hello, just to understand, I have to apply for insurance from Nigeria for my spouse and 2 children. I think we have already answered, you would need that because it will take some months before you can get their social security numbers if you're coming for more than a year's education. I'm a Nigerian. I've been given an admission. I have paid my tuition fee. I want to know if I can go ahead and apply at the migration. Thank you. Yes, I think.
Yes, and if you received a confirmation email from the tuition fee team, then yeah, absolutely.
I've been offered a 1-year master program. Will I be able to give a person number when you will?
No.
Yeah, no, but you can get a coordination number perhaps if you have a work or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is my full name required in the bank statement, including the initial expansion as per in the passport?
You would have to ask the migration agency, actually. I do know that if your name is very, very long, there are limits to how many characters the bank statement can offer. But if you can prove somehow that it's still you, it should be okay with the initials for some of your names.
I wish to ask if I paid my first installment in full, what will happen if I'm awarded the SI scholarship?
a refund is possible. In that case, contact tuition@ju.se.
For a 2-year program, does the bank account statement amount include the funds for? We have already answered this many times, so hopefully you already have the answer. While we have been in Sweden for 1 year, how can we obtain a certificate of affordability from the bank for the next academic year? Well, you don't, you just, once you apply for a study extension of your study permit, then you will need to show funds for another, for the time period you're left for your studies. So if it's 8 months or 10 months or 11 months, depending on that, so you would need to show the same amount of money which we have given info when we were doing this webinar.
Yeah.
Can I show the bank statement of a joint account as the first name as mine? Can I show the bank?
If you're the main account holder and the other name on the account is your co-applicant to come to Sweden, that is the only reason that you can have a joint account. If the person whose name is with yours on your account is not coming with you, I don't think that the migration agency will accept it.
Please, I need help. I'm a Cameroonian. I actually present in UAE. Can I process all the necessary documents from the Swedish immigration here in United Arab? I mean, including the interview, everything. Yes, if you are living there and you have a legal,
legal status.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I have a spouse, can they come with me now? Will I be able to process their permit by next year? What documents will I need? Yes, you can apply for their permit.
Yeah, like in this case, you're coming and then you want them to join you later. Well, then when you apply for an extension of your residence permit, contact the migration agency on how to apply for a permit for them, because then it's going to be their first permit. So it's a little bit tricky. So you need to ask the migration agency for help.
In my RP application, I have put August 1st, 2023 to September 1st, 2024. Is it considered 30 months? Or should I put 30th September 2024?
Small things like that, the migration agency is probably just going to fix it.
Yeah. If I don't have a personal number, can I invite a family member or a friend to visit me in Sweden? Yeah, you can, as long as you're here for studies. So you can, you can invite a family member if I'm not.
If you mean that you're gonna invite them and they need a visitor visa where they have been invited by you, I don't think that a Swedish personal number is required for things like that.
Do I need to inform the admissions office when I'm applying for my residence permit, or the migration agency will contact JU to confirm? The university will tell the migration agency, hey, this person is admitted to this program and they have paid the tuition fee. And the migration agency says, oh, great, thank you. That's pretty much how it works. My passport is expiring November 21st, 2024, and I'm going for a 2-year course. Is this for? Yes, I think it's absolutely fine.
Because you should apply for a 13 months permit now, and then you need to get a new passport so that you can apply for an extension with a new passport.
What if the migration agency asks me to send a more recent bank account statement and the amount is no longer the same? I used my personal bank account to pay the initial 60,000 tuition fee before making the residence permit, but I still have enough in my account as of now to meet. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It should not be a problem. So that is exactly what they are going to look. The amount that is for 30 months you should have in your account. Can I wait still as a scholarship before I decide to pay my tuition fee? Will it not be too late?
Yeah, we are saying that we will wait until after the SI scholarship is published, and then anyone who wasn't awarded the SI scholarship will have time to pay the invoice.
I'm getting married in January. How does that affect my application process? So I guess you're going to be here in August. So once you're here, you can apply for, once you get married and you have all the documents and everything, so you can make the application for your husband or your wife, whatever. So can I apply for a permit for my spouse to join me even though I have been admitted to a one-year program? Yes. I thank you for all the information you provided. You clearly said that you do not answer the questions regarding migration agency, but I'm desperately looking for the answer about when the Sweden embassy will reopen in Pakistan. I have applied, already qualified for a master's degree at your institution, and I'm supposed to pay my fee. And in order to apply for my visa, the embassy should be open. Can you by any chance tell me when the embassy will reopen in Pakistan?
Again, like I said before, it's closed for visits. So Pakistani citizens who are admitted to studies in Sweden will not be able to visit the embassy in Islamabad. But the Swedish Migration Agency is working on finding alternatives. We can't say anything more. You will have to check for updates on the Migration Agency website and the Sweden Abroad Embassy website, the Islamabad Swedish Embassy website, to see what they say there. Because we don't really have any further information. We don't know what's going to happen. This is something that the Foreign Department of Sweden it's their decision. So all we can say now is that it's up to you if you want to take the chance to be able to perhaps visit the embassy in another country. We don't know that yet, what's going to happen. But if you can't get a residence permit due to special reasons, we can grant a full refund with the exception of an administrative fee of 7,500 Swedish kroner. And also any bank transfers or changes in the currency from the time we send the money to when it actually arrives in your account. Because depending on the country, sometimes it goes through 2 or 3 other countries before it arrives in your country. And that's completely up to the banks. That's nothing, we have no way of controlling that in any way.
If my family in Sweden pays my tuition fee, will it affect my visa processing? No, it doesn't.
No.
If my visa application is rejected or refused, can I refund full tuition? No. The administrative fee.
What I just said about 7,500 administrative fee.
Please, are you basically saying that the total amount should I put in my account for 2 years course should be 13 months? Yes.
Yes, because then when you apply for an extension for the next academic year, you will have to show an additional amount that you have to support yourself for the last part.
I'm from Sri Lanka and I just want to know how many times should I visit to Sweden Embassy in New Delhi?
It shouldn't be more than twice.
Are residence permit rejections common in recent years? Well, we cannot answer as if this is what Migration Agency looks. And if you have made the right application and honestly done, answered all of the questions, so I think hopefully it should be fine. What is the process for registering my spouse on a health insurance policy before applying for the study permit?
Okay, for the study permit part and the permit as a co-applicant, the Migration Agency don't require your spouse to have health insurance, but you might need it because if it's a 2-year program, your spouse will need a health insurance in order to be registered with the Swedish Population Registry to be covered by the Swedish health insurance. If something were to happen, then medical costs in Sweden is very high. So you need to be aware that you need to have some sort of protection for high medical costs.
The last question we have, I have been admitted to a one-year program. Do I need a person number to rent an accommodation for my wife? Do I need a person number to get a part-time job during my studies? Well, this is
okay,
accommodation related.
Let's start with to get a part-time job, you don't have to have a personal number, but if you get a job, your employer can apply for a coordination number if they don't, and when it comes to accommodation, it depends on the person you're renting from. So it yes or no, we don't know.
Well, thank you so much, Charlotte, for giving a very detailed presentation about residence permit. And I think this was one of the longest webinars we have done together, perhaps.
Yes.
And we had more than 120 questions, which we have answered. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And remember that we have recorded this, so I'm going to try to put this up hopefully today or latest tomorrow on our YouTube channel. The link you already, which you received on the email invitation when you got info for this webinar. Thank you very much for attending and hope to see you here in Jönköping. Bye-bye.